I can take a gander at the comments while we're here. And today, I'm going to be doing some clear coating or oiling of this carving that I just finished for a client. This is as far as I understand, this is a pine. But what's extraordinary about this pine is the color of it, to me at least. I've not seen a pine with such... Okay, so here's a side-by-side example. These are both, in my understanding at least, maybe you guys know better than me, but these are both pine. Hold on, let me make sure. Am I connected to the Wi-Fi? No, I'm not. Give me just a moment, guys. Pause for just a second. All right, hopefully that helps. These are both... Should I wait for this to catch up? Probably. These are both pine. Okay? This is an impromptu live stream, by the way. Typically, I'm going live on Mondays at either 10 a.m. or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but I'm just saying hi. So, Black Widow Wood Carving, hey, how's it going? Emil says, hey, dude. Amy Jo says, hey there. How are you guys? Thanks for tuning in. These are both pine. Look at the difference in color. And these actually both have a finish coat on them. This is not done. This is just, the finish coat is to protect the wood, to keep it from shrinking and cracking while I'm leaving it alone, while I'm not carving it. This one, look at the tone, the difference in the tone. I love the way it looks. It's a very knotty piece of pine. There's a ton of knots in it and some minor cracking, but it seems to be, it hasn't really gotten worse. It seems to be stabilizing. So let me grab some gloves here. I mean, I don't mind getting tung oil on my hands, but I have this weird thing where I don't love, I guess who does love having dirty hands? I don't. So I'm going to avoid that if possible. Whoa. Set this down here. And I'm going to glove up. Alright, so I've got my clear coat here. This is tung oil. This has been sitting out a little while, but it's still liquid. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of tung oil with a brush to the carving. This is the third coat, so I'm just building up a finish until the carving stops accepting it. And I could definitely add a little bit of thinner to it. Except for I think my thinner is, I don't think my thinner is here, so we'll just have to go full bore with it. Full thickness, which is totally fine by me. So just working it in. And what I've always known about tung oil, but haven't really fully acknowledged or experienced, is how fantastically durable it is. Those of you who have seen my wood finish comparison test, I compare about, I can't remember, maybe 6 or 7 different types of wood finishes. And these aren't different brands, these are specific categories of finish, like mineral oil, water-based polyurethane, say linseed oil, tung oil. And tung oil seemed to surprise, it was surprising to me, I don't know why, because I knew this about tung oil, that it's incredibly durable. In fact, I remember Everett Ellenwood in his book, I think it's called Carving 101. I can't remember the title. But his kind of seminal work, his seminal carving work, talked about how tung oil was by far the most durable wood finish, certainly in the oil category, but I think probably arguably one of the better finishes in general, because not only is it a hardening oil, but it's a deep penetrating oil. And if you thin it, if you use a thinner with the oil, it really behaves, and so it really absorbs into the wood, and it hardens. And just in testing it by applying water to it to see if it would stain the surface, the tung oil, even just after one coat, repelled water better than some of the water-based polyurethanes that I was using. I mean, that doesn't sound like a shocker because you're talking about a water-soluble finish, but it still shocked me because these are some really expensive and high-tech finishes, whereas tung oil, you know, it's fairly affordable to get pure tung oil. And no, I'm not sponsored by this company, but what I'm using here is pure tung oil. And I don't like to use the stuff with fillers, especially if I'm going to be using it on, you know, cutting boards or whatever, or something that you might, something that you might be experiencing or might be in contact with food. I wouldn't do that. Anyway, so this has 2 coats of tung oil, so I'll apply the finish. I like to apply it fairly liberally. I know I've read some folks talk about how that you don't need to put very much at all. This is a fairly rough carving, so it kind of needs a lot, and it's a very thirsty carving, so it's absorbing a lot of finish. And this takes anywhere from 12 to 24 hours to dry. I'll apply it heavily. I'll let it soak for a bit, and then I'll come back in with my paper towel and an extra dry brush, and I'll try to work it out of the areas that it's pooled up. And the idea here is to allow the finish to soak in, penetrate as much as it can, but then not leave a ton of it on the surface so that it kind of, I don't know how it would behave. Gum up is my guess. But it's just a really beautiful finish. The reason I don't use it a ton on cottonwood bark is because oils tend to really darken up the wood. I mean, you can see how dark this pine is now. It was a lot closer to this color before, the wood behind it. And so there's a definite tendency for the oil, because it's penetrative, to darken up the wood, which cottonwood bark is already so dark. You're trying to keep it as light as possible, generally speaking. At least I am when I'm doing portraiture. And just details tend to show up a lot better on a lighter wood than a darker wood. And so, so I don't use tung oil on cottonwood bark. I have, and it's a nice looking finish. It just depends on the type of carving that I'm doing, really. So it's nice to be able to use this stuff on this pine, because it's such a fantastic finish to use. Roy's Timber Techniques looking good. Should get your book soon. Find the oil makes it too dark. Agreed. Right. A big piece deserves a lot. My personal favorite is linseed oil. Red in the wood grain looks good. Seems to penetrate better warmed up as well. Oh, interesting. Didn't know that. Yeah, cool. Love it. Highly recommend. Got your book today. Love it. Highly recommend. Thank you, Jane. I appreciate that. Yeah, so it's been out for, let's see, the 24th. It's been out for 10 days, so a little over a week and a half. And the response has been great. I would love to see more reviews on Amazon. That's one thing. If I had to be a whiny baby, that'd be the one thing I'd whine about. But the response that I've been getting personally has been really, really awesome. A lot of folks have reached out and said they've gotten the book. I guess I probably just need to start responding to the messages by saying, hey, thank you so much for getting it. I'm so glad you love it. Leave a review in the comments, because that really helps people that don't know me, like you guys do, help to decide to get the book. Because otherwise, how do they know that anything in there is halfway decent? A lot of these AI books that are coming out, my buddy bought one. Buddy Doug was telling me about an AI book that was not even written by human. Of course, inherent in that statement is not even written by human beings. It's this book that was thrown together and horrible. He said there's absolutely no information whatsoever in the book, and it was on how to carve faces. So he was like, well, your competition isn't so stiff, Alec, if this is what it's like. And so, I mean, the vetting thing is difficult, and the ratings really help people determine the quality of the book. So anyway, there's my, do you want to hear me whine and grape? There's my wine and grape. Wine and grapes. So, yeah, the book came out. I'm like very happy with the fact that folks are enjoying it, and I hope it helps. I hope it, even if it just helps a little bit, even if it helps people in their carving journey, even if it's through having read it and someone says to themselves, this is absolute garbage. None of this stuff I agree with. And then they end up making more art that's different or better because of it, then great. Then I guess it still served its purpose in helping somebody become a better artist, a better carver. So yeah, I think I've got to be taking off here soon. So I should probably let you guys go, but I just wanted to show you what the process is like here with applying the finish and show off this little beauty. This wood, that is just a really beautiful spalted. There's all kinds of spalting. Can you see the dark striations in the grain? It's just totally beautiful. So I just thought I'd show this off. The client who's receiving this is in Colorado. I'm in Michigan. So it's going a long ways, and the shipping is going to be, I mean, it's fairly heavy. So it's not going to be the cheapest shipping, but I don't know, maybe $40 or $50. So nothing too crazy. Yes, so that's that. This was a commission order. Probably shouldn't say too much more because I don't know who this is going to exactly and what the plan is. So I don't want to mess up anything. Worked it into the corners. I'll let that sit for a while. I'll come back later and take off the excess. Very cool. Thank you guys for joining. You know what? I don't have a ton of time and I won't be back until 4 or 5 hours from now. So I may just come through and take off the excess now. I know it's against the rules, but I don't want this to get gummy. It probably won't. It'll probably be fine, but I don't want to risk it. When you've got a carving that's done, that's taken you this long to create, you do not want to risk, you definitely don't want to risk messing it up or gumming up the finish. So I'm going to take my time here and take off the excess finish with a towel. And an extra brush. This backside is really thirsty. I really need to add a lot of finish to this back here because it keeps absorbing it. I'm going to get a dry brush, and yeah, it is pine. Hair dryer helps before wiping it down. That's a cool idea. It's pine, yeah. As far as I understand, it is pine. Really horrible to carve because of all the knots. I don't know if you can see knots everywhere. Another knot. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 knots in this carving, and that made it really challenging. So challenging to carve because all these little knots got in the way of the tools, and the hand carving was really difficult, and the power carving was even really difficult because the knots slow you down. Not a big deal, though. I mean, we managed to take care of business. I'm going to grab another brush. And go in on the face, work out all the excess oil, spread it around. I don't want it to pool up too much. Sometimes I'll actually even use the towel, and I'll use the brush to push it into these crooks and crannies to absorb the bigger pools that I'm not able to clean out as easily with the extra dry brush. I mean, you don't want a really inconsistent finish. You don't want it to be really shiny in some spots and really dull in others. This is a matte finish, the walrus tung oil that I'm using. So I'm not at a huge risk of it being all uneven, but I still want to try and maintain an even coat. So that is looking great. Look at how that pulls out the color in that carving. Harry Potter. Somebody said do Harry Potter. The color tones are coming out really nice. Thank you, Fine Art. Pine is like that, but it really looks good too. Yeah, I do like pine. As much as it can be a hassle to carve, depending on the subspecies. The eastern white pine, I believe it is really good to carve. I think that's what it is that I'm thinking of. But whatever this is, which may be eastern white pine, but just with the different colors are showing through because of the knots, I'm not sure. But it's an amazing, amazing piece of wood, and it was worth all of the headache of trying to deal with these knots. So much knottage. Okay. All right, looking pretty good. I'm headed off to church. I've got a youth group to go be a leader at. And God help this nation if people like me are leading the youth, right? Go carve faces in wood, young man. It'll be a career. Yeah. All right. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed whatever this was. I'll give it I'll show it off before I leave here so you can see what the colors. Here, you can't see it without this light. There we go. Well, it's not really showing through very well with the colors, but here, let's put it down. You can see it better over here. There we go. Look at that color. Isn't that awesome? Look at that red. I hope this doesn't fade. Part of me worries about the color fading on stuff like this, but yeah. So I have done the wool and vinegar in a jar once before. So laugh out loud got up. Thanks, guys. Love the pop. All right, my brothers and sisters. Do you do those large commissions only for commissions? Or large carvings only for commissions? No, I don't. Actually, this one's not a commission. This one will be available at an art show that I do. So, all right. Thank you, guys. I'm taking off. Appreciate your time.